I want to know what happened. What happened? Hi, everybody. This is the second meeting of the Forever 44 Fedora Club. We didn't have any sort of mic issues, sound issues, anything like that prior to the start of this here stream. Welcome to it. If you're watching on delay, even better. So I have to say, above me, are you above me?
I don't know, am I?
Is Judge Jen. You know, Jen, say hello.
I remember to do my name properly tonight because somehow I was named Judge Jen last month. Let it be known, let it be written.
Mm-hmm. And she's got the fedora on this time as well. So we're all present and accounted for.
Yeah.
To Jen's left, is it Jen's on your screen? To Jen's right. From the Cretans Guild, it's Skipper Bob. Skipper Bob, hello.
Hello. Welcome, welcome.
And below Skipper Bob, you know him, you love him. You can't live without him. Nate.
Hi,
I'm Nathaniel Hardy, everybody.
Yes, Nathaniel Hardy on Twitter. And cheers to everyone. The stick Tracy beverage is very good.
Yeah. Oh, look at it. Right out. Oh, right out of the bottle. Wait for it.
Oh, wait.
Bob is ready to go.
Did you guys
now we can start.
Skipper Bob's first day. Oh.
Breaking out the merch.
Nice.
Nice.
Hey-oh.
You know.
A little Forever
No,
44
where can we
Fedora.
get that mug?
Yeah, exactly.
If we can get that mug.
Judge Jen.
Well, if you're interested, you can go to the Dillo's Diz Tea Public store and get your very own Forever 44 Fedora Club mug, iPhone case, hoodie, t-shirt. It's all there.
T-shirt. Boom. T-shirt. T-shirt alert. T-shirt alert. I've only had like 7 items of clothing since I've been in upstate New York. So the Forever 44 Fedora Club is one of those 7 shirts, basically. So here we are.
Yes. Eddie, is that you? I believe that's Eddie, right? And he is asking where the birthday boy's hat is.
Oh.
Nate.
It's in another room.
You gotta get it.
I mean, you have to get it. Okay. We'll wait.
Yes.
We'll wait. Don't you worry.
Skipper Bob, what's been going on lately in your life? Tell us everything.
Well, after a couple of trips to the Orlando parks, I've realized how much the trips to the parks are part of my exercise regimen because, wow, was I exhausted after just 2 visits. And I was like, I'm done. I don't need to go back for a week.
Both Universal Park, SeaWorld, what were you doing?
I was doing Universal for a full day for both parks over there, and then I did Disney Springs for anniversary dinner that we were supposed to have back in April.
Belated anniversary. That's good. Where'd you go?
Raglan Road. It just recently opened.
Awesome. Love Raglan Road.
I love Raglan Road.
There he is. He's got that.
There we go.
Styling and profiling.
Sorry, everybody.
Eddie,
I had to find the space where the kids hopefully wouldn't bother me, and I forgot that the hat wasn't here. So sorry, but I'm okay now.
Nate, you're in an undisclosed location for your birthday week. Is that correct?
Yes, we are in the Outer Banks. And the weather is great. There's several islands in Outer Banks, so
one of them.
Yeah, and
we're not revealing which island you're at, Nate.
No,
no,
it's a really long strip of land, so I could be anywhere. But the beach is great. It's just so much fun, and thank you to my wife and friends for arranging this. It was great.
Yeah, awesome! Yay, birthday,
Jenny.
Cool.
I hate birthdays, but I love yours, Nate. I don't like my own, but I like yours. Did you take a picture on the beach by any chance holding some Mickey balloons and like posing with a big group of people behind you?
No, I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're special. You have those.
That's what we want to call it. Jeff, welcome to the Forever 44 Fedora Club meeting.
Yeah.
Jeff and Eddie are in the chat.
Hat tip. Nate, are you drinking the official cocktail of the month as decreed by Crown Prince of the Forever 44 Fedora Club, Landon Doan?
Close.
Oh.
I did not have Tuaca, and I was not going to buy the huge bottle of Tuaca that was at the ABC before I left to come down on vacation. But it's bourbon and Aperol. It's pretty close, but it's very good. It's like a sweet Manhattan.
Very good. Skipper Bob, just straight from the bottle.
Yeah,
what?
that is the man.
Yeah.
That's how you do this.
Jen, are you drinking the drink in the?
No. I started reading the recipe. I was like, nope, not doing that. Should I share the screen so everyone can see?
Yes, the Dick Tracy cocktail, as it were.
There we go.
This is what's not in Jen's Forever 44 Fedora Club mug available at our T Public store.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Wait, I don't know am I sharing it? Is it
There
working?
it is. That's right.
Good job.
There we go. Yeah, as soon as I saw bourbon whiskey, I was like, oh, I think I'm out. No, I don't.
You're always well stocked in the bourbon whiskey. What are you talking about? I see that on. Nope.
Not really.
Yeah, it's it's hard to introduce these things during quarantine because nobody knows when they're going into the liquor store, when they're going to the supermarket. It's all chaos. But I'm just drinking a Sam Adams porch rocker. So.
What are you doing?
It's not even. I didn't
the
even.
leader of this club.
I'm the leader of the club, Val.
Al.
And we'll try again next month. That being said, I also didn't make the recipe of the month as provided by Tom and Michelle over at Disney Dishes. Tom is the chef. We went with. I really enjoyed the choice here. It's a new option from Disney Dishes. And over at Disney Dishes blog. Check it out. There it is, the loaded buffalo chicken tots from the Friar's Nook in the Magic Kingdom, as inspired by one Justin Monorail. First of all, you can't go wrong when there's thank you, Eddie, for agreeing with my awesome porch rocker option. Yeah, so there's all the ingredients right there. Basically, get that chicken going, shred it up real good. I wish I had the time to do this today, but my place of employment prevented me from doing such. And here you get the loaded buffalo chicken tots going, shred that chicken.
Mixa.
Yeah, mixa, as it were. The mixer. Get the mixer out.
There we go.
And all the things.
Let me see. I'm just, let me scroll to the, there we go. Completed.
Could you scroll up just a little bit there?
Sure.
Just a little bit back. Because are those potato barrels or tater tots? This is Phil, Disney related.
Cool.
So they have to be called
potato
barrels.
Potato barrels.
What?
You haven't heard about that? That's what the Disney will not call those tater tots because they don't actually have a deal with that company. They refer to them as potato barrels.
Well, that's not acceptable.
Is it a brand name?
It's a brand name, yeah. And so I can't remember who was on that packaging. Jen?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. It didn't say. I think
Don't worry about it. Those people who own the tater tots.
We also don't have a deal with them, so.
Right, exactly. Why support? Yeah, in the Toy Story Land Pavilion, I thought you might have seen that because that's one of the side dishes. Potato barrels, and my son and his friend were not going to eat potato barrels.
Yeah.
But when they came out, they said, "Oh, these are tots."
Oh, wait a second. We know these.
They're trying to pull a fast one here.
Yeah.
I know. It was a minor controversy apparently on Twitter.
Oh. What isn't a controversy on Twitter?
Right.
Seriously. Good evening, Daddy-O. Welcome.
Hey, Daddy-O. So there you go. So definitely check out the Disney Dishes blog for all the suggested recipes there, especially that there's layers. So if you want to, I was about to say the whole enchilada. I don't know if enchiladas is an option, but you can make everything, or there's when you do a yoga DVD, maybe you have the DDP yoga, Skipper Bob. I don't know if you have that, but there you go. You get the modified version of the, you can just get the tater tots, but you also might get offered to make your own potato barrels separately. I don't want to, because they can't call them tater tots if you're making your own. It's very complicated. Is that a yes, Skipper Bob, on the DDP yoga?
I have the off-brand done by Stevie Richards, I guess. Only wrestling fans would get that joke.
I got it. The DDP yoga got me through prepping for my wedding. I feel like so it's a part of my wedding regimen back in 2012.
I was gonna say, how long ago was that?
2012. 2012. Everybody.
When's the last time you did it? Is that the last time?
I tried out the app last year, and now I'm in a Peloton family.
Yeah, he's a Peloton boy.
Right.
I'm boy here.
Nice.
It's a whole other conversation for another time.
My idea of working out is just go to Epcot.
Yeah. Walk around
and eat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Walk it off.
Yeah, exactly.
A coworker of mine, he was like, I walked 9.4 miles from Midtown Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge yesterday into Brooklyn to walk home. And I was like, whoa, how did it take you 3 hours? And he's like, well, I stopped for a pizza under the bridge on the way home. I was like, well, at least you're justifying your steps. Thanks.
Exactly.
Well, here we are last month. If you missed the first meeting of the Forever 44 Fedora Club, we gathered, we introduced the club. It's available here on our Dillo's Diz YouTube. We talked about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We talked about what we loved about the movie. We talked about its place in and out of the parks over the years. And now there's a product placement right there. I'm going to pause for product placement. And now here today, we're talking about Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy on June 15th celebrated its 1 year. It's
brand new movie, guys. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Welcome to the year 1991.
What is time?
Celebrated its 30th anniversary on June 15th. If you listen to the Theme Park Thursday podcast, we had Academy Award-winning makeup artist John Caglione Jr. to discuss his time working on Dick Tracy. Check it out. Cheap plug. Now, Nate Hardy had never seen Dick Tracy. Last month, all in on Roger Rabbit, an integral part of his bloodline.
Yeah.
This year.
It's part of my DNA. This one, I'm so embarrassed to say that I hadn't seen it until just 2 days ago. But I really enjoyed it, actually. I was surprised. Well, I liked it, and then at one point I felt like, okay, this is a little too much. But I really enjoyed it. Way more than I expected. It was fantastic, actually. So,
okay. I can't wait to. We'll deep dive on that. Skipper Bob, early impressions. When did you first see Dick Tracy? Do you remember where you were and when and how?
Let's see. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theaters when it came out, which at the time I didn't realize it was made by Disney because it had probably one of the most controversial persons in the world in the movie. I'm like, really? Madonna? But, tame by today's standards, but back then she was like really controversial. I'm surprised my parents let me go see it. I was like, I'm going to see some nipple, aren't I? Maybe. I don't know.
There's a chance. That's hilarious. Yeah, because Madonna, that was like peak MTV Madonna. The Blonde Ambition tour led up to the release of the movie. And so there was always like someone dressed as Dick Tracy walking around on stage for her concerts during 1990. But yeah, I guess one of my questions would be, as we just, I think we're just spitballing here, but Madonna kind of gets a bad rap in this movie, kind of new to the whole movie thing besides Desperately Seeking Susan. But I feel like she got more cred, as it were, with League of Their Own, I guess, which was 2 years later. If A League of Their Own had come out prior to Dick Tracy, would Madonna have been better received in this movie?
When did Jen?
Oh, when did I
Hold on
see
a
it?
second.
When did I see the movie for the first time? I don't. Did we see it in the movie? This is like back to Roger Rabbit because you're so much older than me. Did we see it in the movie theater?
So much older.
I know.
It's not as clear. It's not as clear to me as Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's possible that it was both you and I and Mama Dillo, but It's not as clear as
Yeah,
possible.
I can't think of like the first time. I mean, I definitely remember watching it and being young. And I mentioned on the podcast episode today that I remember also being kind of scared of it as well. Because of all the characters and the makeup and, you know, the gritty feel to it all. So it was a little creepy to me, but I can't like pinpoint the first time seeing it.
And you know, maybe you got lured in, maybe you got tricked by Roller Coaster Rabbit being the lead-in for the Roger Rabbit short, as it were, that preceded Dick Tracy back then. But you know, and again, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, there was kind of that whole Disney Channel, you know, build up. There was a lot of behind the scenes. I posted on the Forever 44 Fedora Club Facebook group the half an hour special, I remember, which I assume was syndicated. I kind of remember it being on channel 11 WPIX here in New York. So I assume it was syndicated through like Buena Vista Television or something like that. And so there was a lot of hype behind it. The Blind Ambition tour, you know, they kind of took the Batman marketing approach. So just like Madonna maybe would have gotten more cred if League of Their Own had preceded Dick Tracy, I feel like Batman was like this dark cloud over Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy was never going to reach the heights that the mega marketing push that Batman was, Tim Burton's Batman, back in 1989 was. Either one of you want to tackle the Madonna or the marketing push? Anybody?
I remember it was a full-on blitz. I do remember that, and they were just every single advertisement, every trailer, they almost made her the star, almost on equal par as Warren Beatty, if not slightly above. It's like, hey, look who we got Madonna in a Disney movie, lights flashing. And we have like all these other guys, these other actors, big name guys, Al Pacino and whoever. That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Nate, you were in
Cavalcade of Stars.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's one right after the other.
All the guys. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yes, the Madonna push was big.
Yeah.
So, I didn't see the time. I felt like I didn't connect with it or something, but I should have. Absolutely.
But Nate, you were big into the comics. So were you big into the Chester Gould?
I think I was upset that Warren Beatty was making this movie, and I didn't trust him, so I didn't see. That's what I seem to recall saying. What's he doing with this? No, I'm not doing it. And I didn't buy into the makeup, but now I really do, and it's because of Batman the Animated Series. I think that was heavily influenced by this movie, and the art director Bruce Timm has admitted, but he said that Dick Tracy was one of his influences for that show, and some of the composers who did the movie or music in the movie moved on to Batman the Animated Series, so they kept a lot of the same notes, and it was just fantastic. So yeah, Danny Elfman did the intro music for for Batman the Animated Series, and he did the
Tim Burton movie
portion music of the movie. Yes, Batman too. Yes, and Dick Tracy too. He worked on that, and then the woman who helped co-compose some of the stuff for the movie, Dick Tracy, went over and was in charge of the music for Batman the Animated Series. So there were notes that continued, and if I had figured that out, I would have watched Dick Tracy much earlier. I'm a huge fan of the animated series, and the connections are obvious. I thought I was watching it when the music started. It's very similar music, but I really enjoyed it, and I thought, I don't know.
Oh, you're losing you, Nate.
Okay.
We're losing.
All right, going in and out a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned the Cavalcade of Stars. Yeah.
Oh.
Judge
I
Jen.
didn't know all the stars were in the movie.
Nate,
Yeah.
do you want to try to
Why
go
don't
out
you,
and come back again? Because you are freezing a lot. Yeah.
Let's see. Uh-oh. He's gone.
There we go.
He's gone. No, and that was definitely it's gone. Judge Jen has booted him.
Get out of here. Go.
Oh, God.
Go back.
Thought I last this long.
Pretty soon, everyone will just get used to Jen booting people out of the room, and
Be
it'll
like,
just be like, part of the show, everybody.
I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. No more. Oh, no.
Hey.
Have the power. Okay. Nate's back. Let's see.
Oh,
Hi,
let's see, is Nate
Nate.
here?
Am I unfrozen?
Yes.
You look great now.
You're not.
Sorry,
A lot of in and
everyone.
out. I'm catching what you were saying, but it was
Listen,
definitely
you're
a
on
delay.
vacation. You shouldn't have a good,
Yeah. I tested it earlier today and it worked.
It's okay.
Sorry.
I've now rearranged all of us while you were gone. So Skipper Bob was close to being booted for good. It got crazy. So
There's a lot of pandemonium, conflict. Jeff in the chat says that he was in the movie theater. He can't believe his parents let him watch it when he was 10. And Daddy-O says, when I heard Madonna was in it, I was like, oh yeah, I got to see this. And he was 21. So again, it was kind of a broad spectrum of ages that Jen got hooked in probably when she was 8.
Yeah.
And I was older than that, as we said.
so much older. I mean,
so we were going to talk about the Cavalcade of Stars. So let's try to pick some out here and point out who really stood out to you. I know the first time that I saw it, either just coming out of, it was a few months removed from Rain Man, that I was on like a very big Dustin Hoffman kick for a time. So I loved the character of Mumbles. I remember when I first saw it, and I just thought it was, it was just enough of a cameo in a couple of scenes, but so Dustin Hoffman was just standing out in that role to me, especially when he tips off Dick Tracy there towards the end. So that was always one that stood out early on. Skipper Bob.
Yeah, because some of these guys wore so much makeup, I didn't even recognize them, especially Dustin Hoffman, because he was mumbling at the same time. It's like, who's this guy? I know who this is. I know. Don't tell me. I know. I don't know. And then Al Pacino, the only way you'd recognize him is through that voice. Everything else is just like silly putty on his face.
yeah.
Big boy Caprice. Nate, going through it the first time, was anyone that you were like,
I still didn't know. Yeah. Dustin Hoffman's great. You're right. Oh man. Am I freezing again?
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
so Al Pacino was kind of he was so over the top and into the role. I didn't really realize it was him, as you were saying. It was the voice that finally drove it home, like Skipper Bob was saying. But yeah, Dustin Hoffman was great, and that one scene, where he kind of gives the goods to Dick Tracy, was really great.
Yeah, it was like
Dustin, he pulled it off.
Yeah, and amidst that cartoon world, like almost to get a really nuanced, real moment, I felt like was just so super effective that it always stood out to me as a scene I really loved. Yeah.
I feel like I forgot that Dustin Hoffman was in it, and I put it on again last night just to like give me the refresher of everything, and I'm like, I forget like how many people are in this movie. It was crazy, and he was one of them. I'm like, how did this completely escape my mind? But the cast is insane.
Well, and absolutely taken for granted at the time, I think, is Dick Van Dyke as the district attorney. Like, just so awesome. Like just like seamless into the role. Like, everyone went nuts when he shows up in Mary Poppins Returns last year. And, sure, 30 years ago, but at the time you weren't seeing a whole lot of Dick Van Dyke. So to kind of see him, I mean, I'll have to look up the years of Diagnosis Murder, I guess. But I wasn't watching Diagnosis Murder. But to see him in a role that was not who you see him as in syndicated reruns of the Dick Van Dyke Show or in Mary Poppins, like just really, it got to stretch actors in a way you don't normally see them, and I thought that was awesome. Jen, anybody?
He works so well in the ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yeah.
Jen, I'm gonna look up the years of Diagnosis Murder because it's gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Jen,
Daddy-O was saying Pacino. It was interesting how Pacino was casted according to John. Daddy-O listening to Theme Park Thursday today. Thanks, I'm not even going to give that story away. You'll have to listen to the episode, everyone. So, let me see if I just want to see if we missed any other comments. Yeah, and going back to your point about Madonna, I don't know. I guess for me back then, I didn't give it much thought. And to me, Madonna's always kind of been a superstar regardless. So it's weird to even think that she didn't get the credit, I guess, for that movie at that time, considering how big she was. But I do get it. And I think maybe if League of Their Own had come out first, because she just seemed, I think the role she was playing in Dick Tracy was sort of like, oh yeah, this is Madonna. Okay, yeah, of course she would play this role or something. But then when you see her in like League of Their Own, you see more depth, I guess, to her. But yeah.
Diagnosis Murder, 1993. Just to do a little bit of a check here. We're 4 years away from Diagnosis Murder. Dick Van Dyke shows up in Dick Tracy.
Well, can I ask Skipper Bob? Madonna kind of was your attraction, if I can say, to the movie. So, were you happy with her in the movie? Did you like the appearance?
I was not a Madonna fan. That didn't mean it didn't turn my head. That's for sure. Because that was like right around the time I went from girls yuck to girls. Hey, how you doing, ladies?
Yeah.
So yeah, when that came out, I remember it was like, I'm more of a Paula Abdul fan and Kylie Minogue. So, God, I'm freaking old. But Madonna, sure, she's easy on the eyes. Let's check her out.
Yeah,
I thought she was great. Her singing was fantastic, and she played the vamp very well.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there, a couple of things. Judge Jen keeping an ear out for.
I was like, did I hear a child?
The other thing about going back is, and I wasn't into theater at the time, is that I didn't know that the music was by Stephen Sondheim, so that other added layer. In hindsight, then it gave me more depth for her. On the podcast today, I talked about how over the years, I kind of, especially during the 90s, I kind of went through a different character actor being like the role I focused on whenever I watched it. It was Dustin Hoffman for a while. It was Pacino for a while. I don't know how many times I say, everywhere I look, it's Tracy. I said that like 100,000 times in like a year, probably. I went on a very big Mandy Patinkin kick based off of him and Tony Randall used to do run-ons like in the first year of Letterman. And they would just run on stage like in between guests. And Tony Randall would be like, oh, I'm sorry, Dave, our car broke down and Mandy's trying to rehearse his big number. Is it okay if we rehearse the big number? Thanks a lot. And then like Mandy Patinkin would be to do this big show-stopping number. And I was like, who is this? And then and then I was like, what? He's Inigo Montoya? Who is this? And, it just trickled down after that. And I was like, what? He's 88 Keys? What is happening? So it was, so I was on the big Mandy Patinkin kick for a while, regardless, especially as I realized, his place in Broadway history too. So that part of it is like, you can keep going back to that movie and find something different to focus on. And it really adds to the enjoyment. I'm trying to think of anyone else. I mean, I as I said on the podcast too, it's just I loved the look of Flat Top in all the designs prior to, and maybe we could talk to the look of the characters and stuff early on, but it was just something about how Flat Top went from the comic strip to the movie that I was like, wow, just in terms of how that stood out.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to mention is I felt like I just said a lot there in 1 second.
All good stuff.
No, we're just here.
Yeah.
Anywho, another thing I talked about on the Theme Park Thursday podcast is the unified concept, and how I love that in theater of all the elements, the characters, the production elements, the designs all coming together to be unified to really support the world of the play, as it were. And I whenever I would direct theater, I would always go back to Dick Tracy as kind of like, okay, how can the colors go, and I mean, I'm not that good of an eye, but I wanted my concepts to be unified, and Dick Tracy was always that kind of model for me. And I mean, Who Framed Roger Rabbit's very similar that way. Just to Nate, the first time watching a movie, like, what did you think of the art direction, the costumes? I know you talked a little bit about the makeup, but
yeah, I thought it was fantastic. The makeup really captured what the comic characters looked like, and it was as if they came right out of the paper for me. They were very well done. I thought it would be too hokey, but it actually was pretty good, and the actors totally bought into it, and I think you would have to make it work. And that in the behind the scenes thing that you posted, it was really interesting that the actors loved it. They loved the reactions they got from people in the makeup. They said people treated us differently just walking around the set, because of the way they looked, and it was so distinctive. As you mentioned, the colors before, just the vibrant suits that just popped. Like, of course, Tracy in his yellow and black really stood out. But even with the kid and the first suit that he bought, that bright red, was just so great.
Snoot suit almost.
Yeah, exactly. And I liked how they dressed all the other detectives kind of in drabber, normal suits. So Tracy really stood out from that gray and plaid-ish stuff you'd normally see business people in. So I thought that was just wonderful. All the cues with the visuals were great. And I didn't notice this the first time, but in the making of, when they said that Warren Beatty didn't want any recognizable trademarks or brands in the movie, I went back and thought, oh yeah, we see them eating some stuff a lot of times, and they're in that diner, and there's no product placement, which is nuts, because there's got to be the Coke can. Yes. Very subtle.
It's an excellent point. Excellent.
So
I'll drink that.
That struck me after thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, they didn't have any, and they redesigned all the cars so you couldn't tell which was a Ford model or Chevy. And I wanted to watch it again now, having watched the making of. So thanks for posting that. There's so many details I want to go and check out now. But I love I don't notice the lighting and art direction as much as you do, but you definitely can tell the use of shadow and light, particularly with No Name or No Face. That one character, their identity is hidden, and their physical presence is hidden too, with the shadows a lot, and that. I mean, it was kind of obvious, so I got it, but I really liked it, and it worked well.
Cool. Skipper Bob, you're a big audio guy, so probably you can throw some of that into it too, of like the sounds that you hear during it. But overall, in terms of production, all the elements involved, what really stood out to you?
I remember there being lots of gunshots. This is one of those movies where, Danny Elfman's music, it's almost drowned out by the sights itself, because when you see characters in like this bright yellow coat and bright red coats and bright green coats and blue coats, and just the color palettes are just full force right there in your face. The music, it's there. And I'm not going to say it's not memorable, because it was. It's just there was like, oh, pretty colors. Let me check this out. Oh, it's like, oh, okay. And then, of course, there's Madonna singing her. She had a couple of singing numbers in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she had Sooner or Later, which won the Oscar. And then there was like the song and dance number where Pacino is trying to get them to pick it up a little bit, and then she does a duet with Mandy Patinkin called "What Can You Lose?" I feel like I played that in my sad days a lot. Anyway, so that duet, which was really great too. But yeah, and just you see like the car with the city in the backdrop, and you totally know it's like a matte painting and things like that. Just little, you catch little glimpses, and I feel like you don't watch the same movie twice, and that's what's really cool about it. But yeah, lots of guns.
I was thinking about that last night with the backgrounds, like that, it gave you that cartoon feel. And, in certain scenes, there's so much going on. But then if you look to the back, it's still like the painted pictures and, the comic strip come to life more than what's actually going on.
Jen, did you watch it with Mr. Snidillo or no?
No, he was not home at the time, but so that was the plan.
Just and in terms of, again, it's such a interesting place where the movie fell that with Batman preceding it, and just like the following, I guess that year before too is Batman and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It was like all these movies that are really fantastic that I feel like when Dick Tracy was like, oh, going to be the big blockbuster, it just couldn't match up to that. But if you look back, is it underrated? Is it fine for what it is? Like, should it be on Disney Plus with the future series? Like, where do these things lie?
I thought it was totally underrated because I thought it was not supposed to be a very good movie because of the critical, actually flop kind of critic, and it didn't do well financially, I guess, as they expected. But I actually really enjoyed it. The one point where I thought it kind of went just way over the top was the final big gun battle, the machine guns and the explosions. It was like a Michael Bay movie. Just everything's just blowing up around you, and which is, hey, explosions are cool, but you don't need them all the time. And I thought, because as Skipper Bob was saying, you have these vibrant colors that are, everything is hitting you, all your senses, the music, the colors, the acting, they're over the top and how they're portraying their characters. I didn't need to see, the cars blow up every 5 seconds. So it was
I kind of see that.
Okay. But that was how I felt. But I really liked it, and I would recommend people see it.
Skipper Bob, where do you place the movie nowadays, 30 years later? Underrated? It's fine for what it is, or it deserves more?
I would definitely call it a cult classic. It's worth going back and visiting multiple times, just for the art, basically. The cinematography, the art direction, just everything visual about the movie is incredibly visual. Go figure, movie being visual. Is it probably the greatest thing Disney's ever put out? No. Is it the worst? No. It's so much better. I would probably give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. So I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. I watched it I think last year and then about a month ago, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a cult classic.
Yeah.
to Nate's point, in both points of so many gunshots at the end, it was interesting. Even I remember the first time watching that movie and like just all the villains getting taken out, really. And I'm like, is there not a sequel to this movie or not? Is this the end? Like, what's happening? Like, so I always thought that was interesting. And then now, having read a lot of the history leading up to the movie coming out, and then the history after of how long it took, and Warren Beatty taking it on, and it getting passed around, and then afterwards of Warren Beatty still owning it. He did some random interview in 2011 with Leonard Maltin that as he did it addressed as Dick Tracy just so he could hold on to the ownership of the rights, and so it's like, okay, but what are you doing? You're sitting on it. What I feel like it is a brand that could be exploited these days, and it's so curious, and I'm sure it's very Hollywood political as to why there's been no real resurgence of it over the last 30 years.
Who still owns the rights today?
I think Beatty still owns the rights.
I think so. But Bruce Campbell, in one of his memoirs, wrote that he really wanted to have a Dick Tracy TV series. He thought it would work so well on TV, and he would make a great Dick Tracy, I think. He's got that ability to give you a little bit of humor, but he can maintain I've got a solid jaw, detective guy.
The Dick Tracy character isn't really a funny guy. He's
dryly funny. You got to maintain the straight guy face in front of a lot of the stuff that happens. I mean, the flat top, the dude's got a flat head. Mumbles is mumbling, and he handled it like in the scene where he's going to be offed and they tie him up in the steam room. He is maintaining the cool guy response, and all the villains buy in. They're like, "Oh, Tracy's on our side now," and he says, "No, you're trying to bribe me. You're under arrest." That cool demeanor, the straight man, is part of comedy, and I thought he was very good at it. I think Campbell would make it more humorous, and you're right, change it, but I still think it would make a good TV series. I think it should be on Disney Plus, and I'd definitely watch something like that.
Jeff was talking about that it's a beautiful looking movie and it doesn't look like it's 30 years old, which I think is also a testament to it. We watch a lot of Friends reruns still to this day. It's kind of our decompressed come down at the end of the night that we'll put on Friends reruns. And like one of the things we always talk about at home is that, Friends was very purposeful in its production design, and you can see it in the early episodes. That's not the case, but they got smarter as it went on to kind of keep things looking generic so that it would have staying power in syndication. That's why they all wear khakis, because it's not gonna change. It's why they very specific with the colors and everything else of the clothes they're wearing, which I mean is totally true, because outside of a random phone here and there, you don't really get the sense that it's 25, it's 20 years ago for some of these episodes. And I think that's the case here with Dick Tracy. It's like, yeah, sure, it's 1930s, 40s, cops and robbers kind of stuff, but you wouldn't know that movie was made 30 years ago. It totally could have been something that is a Disney Plus original at this point.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be on Disney Plus. And to speak to the gunshots in the very beginning, I had my back turned because I was kind of multitasking, because obviously I'm always multitasking. So I was like cleaning up and all this stuff, and I'm hearing it. And I don't know why those specific gunshots in the beginning of the movie reminded me of the gunshots heard on the Great Movie Ride. But I was like, I swear to God, is this like the same exact soundbite? I don't know why it's giving me the Great Movie Ride gangster scene feels, but it is. And then I was depressed about the Great Movie Ride. So
yeah. That's funny. In that opening scene, I think part of, I remember seeing it when I saw the movie too, because they pumped up a lot of how these characters looked, and a lot of that, the characters you saw were those ones in the opening scene that get taken out. I'd like to see like the brow and shoulders and all those guys go away. I'm like, what is happening? What did you do? Little did I know that there was like dozens of other villains to come along the way. But I just remember because those characters were so showcased early on, and again, a nice diversion from the bigger name actors who were in other villain roles. It was a smart tactic to go, wait, who are the villains? And then you get like all these famous people playing these roles. It was really cool. Daddy-O is citing that the one thing that didn't go well for him was the chemistry between Madonna and Warren Beatty. Well, it's a whole other.
I want them all.
What's happening off screen doesn't necessarily translate to on screen. Because Warren Beatty is like all over the Madonna Truth and Dare or Dare movie, I think, too. There's a lot of, I think that was filmed around the time where that was.
Is that the movie for next month?
Change of plans, everybody. We're all watching Truth and Dare next month. Hold on. That would really shift the mission forever.
Yeah, that's more online for my podcast.
No.
That's really funny. Yeah, cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really need to. Is there anything else that stands out that we missed throughout the movie before we move on to what went wrong with the theme park stuff? I mean, I think we know the answer, but I'd like to talk about it a little bit. Any other
Sorry, fighting something.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about the theme park stuff.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing: is that as Jen and I like to refer to Hollywood Studios as hashtag always MGM. 12 months into Disney MGM Studios opening, you were seeing a very serious Dick Tracy push in the park. So also part of the marketing genius at the time, the branding everywhere was that here was the place that we love, and the new theme park, getting behind this movie as well and having a place in the park. So I think part of me thinks, and maybe I know a little bit more about how things operate, that they already knew that the movie wasn't going to be as big as Batman. So you got the Diamond Double Cross musical show that happened at the Theater of the Stars. You got a little dress up and get cast in a Dick Tracy scene over on Hollywood Boulevard. You had the costumes on the backstage studio tour that you got to see, a couple of the cardboard cutout standees along the way there. But really, by the time we got there that August, which was our first summer going to Walt Disney World, because we usually went in December, it was already kind of over. They already had kind of moved on. It was already not making that much money. But I thought it was sad that they couldn't have this brand as an extension of what was, to me, the coolness of the park at the time, that 1940s feel. So again, I think it's important to bring up, maybe, like, is Disney missing the boat somewhere by trying to get this brand back and having it be in their park? Why not?
Didn't the movie premiere at Pleasure Island?
Yes,
it did.
On the podcast today, John Caglione Jr. talked about not really being prepared for it to be as Disney-fied at the premiere, as it were, and driving up to Pleasure Island and getting out of the limo and the lights and the carpet and the whole thing. That it was overwhelming, at the time, to know that the theme park was like just on board with Dick Tracy, especially for the premiere. Yeah, but it premiered at Pleasure Island, which is super cool.
Yeah. It kind of goes with the Roger Rabbit piece we were talking about last week, that there was like a little bit of it in the park, but why not more, especially with how the park was in the 90s, and the park was very old school Hollywood and had that Fedora feel to it, but just had that feel where it seemed like a movie like Roger Rabbit or Dick Tracy should have fit in perfectly with it, and it's kind of like how we talk about the Muppets, how there's just something missing where Disney's not grabbing on as tight as it should to it and doing something bigger with it.
do you think that it was because of some of the adult elements in the movie? I mean, I
both
was
touched on.
struck at how similar it was to Roger Rabbit in that respect. You know, you had Jessica Rabbit and Madonna, obviously, very similar vamp type characters, and you had some really, you know, blatant adult kind of humor.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Disney didn't feel comfortable, but you're the man to talk about that, Frank. So.
I mean, that could be it, is that it was kind of a little too grown up for Disney.
At the same time, Disney doesn't like to keep pumping money into something that they deem as a failure.
That's true.
Unless its name is Tron.
Hey, whoa.
Hey, that hurts me too. I wanted that movie to do so much better than it ended up doing.
Did you see the animated series?
I did.
Okay. Did you like that?
I did like it. The animation was a little unusual, but the different subject altogether. But I did like it.
Sorry. Yes, I think that redeemed the movie. That series that came after.
The story elements made it flushed it out a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. Talk about that another time.
And you know, like we like to tangent. I never apologize for a good tangent. Come on.
Yeah, just let's not derail the whole thing.
Well, I'm going to derail it here for a second, Skipper Bob, because you know, hashtag everything is wrestling, and you know, in wrestling, when somebody comes over from a different organization into the WWE, they are not treated the same way as if it was their own ingrown talent. So I feel like Dick Tracy, not its own brand, you know, it may not have received that kind of love. Hashtag everything is wrestling.
And plus, they were probably tired of giving money to Warren Beatty. He's like, oh, if we do something with his likeness, we got to keep giving him cash.
Well, and there was the Katzenberg Beatty fallout that I think was.
Yeah.
They kept about the point of not having their own brand. We've got the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror still, and
amazingly,
I am shocked that it's still there. And I love that ride. I hope it doesn't change. But you know, I was so against the Guardians of the Galaxy ride out in Disneyland, the transformation of that, and then I rode it, and it's awesome. So I don't know, but yeah, I would like them to keep that, but I'm afraid, Frank, that you're right. They're going to try to keep everything that's in house front and center in the parks. So.
Yeah, Jeff brings up a good point of, do you think it's just that time has passed? Like if you say Dick Tracy to someone of a certain age or younger, most of them would say who? Maybe just not recognizable enough.
That's like me, because I'm so young that I'm like, I don't understand.
I mean, I think it's a fair thing, but it's also it wouldn't take much for people to get eyes back on it. I think that it's you know, everything gets rebooted first of all. So I think that it could happen again. This Disney Plus is sitting there for, but I think also that. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's much to be had from the brand. I think they're missing out. It cost $46 million to make, and it made $162 million at the box office. So, and I think at the time, if it didn't reach that $200 million level, like it was like not a summer blockbuster, basically. Because I think if you scratch 200 million, you know, or at the time where Home Alone was making, you know, I think. Made earlier in the year like so much money as a children's movie that did Nate fall off? What happened?
I think Nate fell.
You okay, Nate?
I'm back. I had to fix a problem. Sorry, everybody. Computer almost died.
Does Jeff think you're getting
intently though? Sorry.
Jen, does Jeff think you're getting sleepy?
I think because I'm just so young.
Oh. Yeah, it's true.
You could play the kid in
She's
the
had a nap.
I could. I tried to have a nap today. It didn't really count.
And then Jeff said maybe if we make Dick an Avenger. I just think that, again, if I would say, right, I'm trying to think. I don't know it as well, so maybe someone could correct me. People love Firefly, but there's a large amount of people who have no idea what Firefly is. And I think if you, Skipper Bob's going to challenge my
I think Firefly is just famous for being one of those shows that only lasted 1 year and still has like a buttload of fans. And that's what it's famous for, not so much the story or anything else.
Yeah.
I think Dick Tracy, on the other hand, is if you walk up to anybody in the street and you say Dick Tracy, and the first thing they're going to think of is the movie and not the comic book. And it's like, oh, that's right, it was based off a comic book from the 1830s or something. But yeah, I think the movie, even though not a critical and financial success, still made its mark on the landscape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm shocked that Apple hasn't used the Dick Tracy advertisement
for the watch.
Apple Watch, because when I think of Dick Tracy, and maybe just because I'm old, but I just see
You're
that
not old,
shot of him. Yeah, the shot of him where he's got the wristwatch up to his face and he's talking, and you just see the fedora, the yellow, the wristwatch. Those three elements of it being, you know, an old 1940s kind of detective show, but yet we've got this cool technology. That's iconic, and I think you can put that in any era. But yeah, I wonder if just some of the younger folks are saying, "Oh yeah, that movie with that Madonna." Like, so,
that Madonna. Remember Madonna?
Right, Skipper. I'm not sure.
The other attraction that was talked about at the time, and this ties into Roger Rabbit a little bit too, is they talk about Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, which is going to be like you get in like the 1930s automobile, and you kind of do like a Indiana Jones and Disneyland like car, you know, the car zips and zap all around, and also because I think it's part of what carried over into Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin, you know, you would have the guns, so there would be elements of shooting throughout the ride, and they were going to combine that for the studios. I think there's just answers that we need clarified for both Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Dick Tracy, which includes how much was it people didn't get along, whether we're talking about Spielberg with Roger Rabbit or Warren Beatty with Dick Tracy. How much was the money, not because Dick Tracy didn't make enough money, but because all the money was going towards Euro Disney, and where do those two things connect and where do they fall apart? And, you know, I think there's a third movie that would be discussed for next month that could be included in that as well. But, you know, personally, yeah, we didn't talk a lot about, you know, the legacy. And I think, you know, it's funny that Nate brought up the makeup, maybe putting him off a little bit at the beginning. The makeup definitely part of it, especially now with CGI being so present and how we're making everyone look younger in movies and things like that. Kind of to see the hands-on, as it were, of those characters is so unique and special.
Absolutely. There's been, it came out with the Star Wars prequels. There was this whole debate about whether you have practical effects or CGI, but it was so great to see the molded masks, and the physicality of the mask made the actors work differently. And I think it really made this work, whereas CGI would have had a little different take. Maybe it would have been the same. I'm not sure. But having all that heavy makeup on and the costumes, I think, helped the actors bring out those characters. But yeah, I don't know if it would be financially reasonable now to do something like that and not use CGI. Not sure.
Skipper Bob, final thoughts on Dick Tracy?
You know, I was just at Universal recently, and I was walking through the Toon Lagoon area, and I was like, Dick Tracy would fit in here if they did something with it. And that just, you know, it's one of those random thoughts that pop in there. But yeah, well, I'm interested in what this third movie you're talking. Is it the black hole?
Well, just a real quick, Skipper Bob. Toon Lagoon has always fascinated me at Islands of Adventure. Why can't they change it into? They've changed it, almost overhauled the rest of the park. It was, but since 1999, it's been the one. It looks cool, but it's not really doing anything for anybody. What do you want to?
I walk by Wimpy's all the time, and it's always closed.
I think it's been like that since the park opened. It's always been like the last place they fill in. I mean, granted the Popeyes bilge rat barges are, you know, crazy, but and Dudley Do-Right. Jen banged her head on the side of the Dudley Do-Right Ripsaw Falls when she was young. She doesn't remember it because she probably was concussed. But when we did, because it goes down, right, and then it kind of comes up and does that again. And Jen weighed 10 pounds when she was young, and she like totally went flying and hit her head on the side of the log.
Oh.
Yeah, she doesn't remember that.
She's been injured in both parks then because she had the toenail incident at the
beach club. Yeah,
that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
a lot of
go to Busch Gardens.
A lot of theme parks.
Interesting. You're injury prone, is what you are.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll play in on the toenail story maybe after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tease it.
It's part of the Delos Diz Theme Park Thursday archive. Go back.
Go back and find it.
Go back.
It's on episode.
Keep going.
Thanks for the plug. We'll send you a link, Skipper Bob. We'll do it special for you. Speaking of plugs, Skipper Bob, why don't you tell everyone where people can find you?
You can find me on YouTube under Skipper Bob's Breakdowns, or you can listen to my podcast, The Cretans Guild. Go to Twitter at Cretans Guild, and we're a little more risque podcast, not really one for the younger ears. If this tells you anything. Oh,
It's
God,
okay,
I drank like 3/4 of that.
That is impressive. Yeah.
What?
Nate?
I don't know if my headset's dying or is that just my hearing going out.
Nate, over to you.
I don't have anything to plug right now. Just you can find me on Twitter at Nathaniel Hardy. I love talking about all this kind of stuff, geek stuff, comics, movies, all sorts of things.
You didn't bring up the trading cards.
Oh, sorry. I am a trading card fan, and Dick Tracy had several products that in merchandise for the movie, and they had, of course, a trading card tie-in that everybody had at the time. It was a standard Topps release, and there were a total of 100 cards, I believe, with 11 stickers, and it was just a retelling of the movie. So if you've ever seen the Star Wars cards, you know it's like a shot from every scene as they progress in the movie, and then they throw in some stickers. The stickers had a puzzle on the back to make out that Dick Tracy image that was used to market the movie, and it was an okay release. You can get the whole set right now for about $10 on eBay. You can buy the whole box, unopened box, for like $15.
Oh.
And it's readily available. It was all over the place. Yeah, head right now to the new days and grab that stuff. They were fun, but not particularly spectacular.
I think I have some somewhere. I don't think I had the whole set though, but I bet you
they were in like a black binder. I feel like there were a good amount of them. I tried to get Mamadillo on the case today, and I was like, I think, have you seen Dick Tracy cards? She's like, what? Where? I'm like, in the attic. So if you got time, if you want to just start digging through the attic, see if you find them.
I did go through some of my baseball card binders that I have on top of my closet at my place before I came upstate. And I was like, oh, no, it's this black binder. Because I was literally pulling the black binders because, it's in a black binder. Yeah. But I didn't find it on that first deep dive. So it ran out of time on that.
Find them.
I will find them. Jen, what would you like to plug?
Oh, well, I mean, last time Nate plugged the Magical Mommy Monday podcast for me. So, I guess I'll plug that. Magical Mommy Monday podcast every Monday with my co-host, Angela Dahlgren. Also, I'm one half of Dillo's Diz. Which side are you on now? Here? Is that right? Yeah. With this guy here, and podcast every Thursday. You can check us out on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram at Dillo's Diz, dillosdiz.com for everything. You can get your mug or your Forever 44 Fedora merch at our T Public shop. There you go. And what else can we plug?
Are you doing chin-ups?
And whether you watch along live with us or if you're catching a replay, make sure to check out our podcast this week. We did talk to John Caglione Jr., who won the Academy Award for makeup for Dick Tracy, did Heath Ledger's Joker design. So he had a lot of great stories to tell, great Warren Beatty story, a great Al Pacino story. So check that out. And next month, it's like my little,
guys.
almost like my own trilogy here. We will date to be determined. We will be discussing The Rocketeer.
Yes.
Everyone got excited.
That is fantastic.
Nate Skipperbomb, thank you so much. Judge Jen, see you next week, I guess, or I'll text you later.
Yeah, I'll after this. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Deuces.